right, everyone. Welcome to Project Instigate, a place for you to grow forward, thrive with leadership, learning, and growth strategies. Project Instigate helps individuals and organizations overcome barriers to success, helping leaders who want to create a positive impact in their communities and create a positive change in the world, reaching their goals exponentially faster and achieving success living in alignment with their values. Today's topic is on spiritual care in society, and our guest speaker is Dr. Nasir Zaidi. He has PhD in Theology and Philosophy. He's a Muslim spiritual care professional at Vancouver General Hospital and seasonal lecturer at Vancouver School of Theology. Dr. Zaidi will discuss how spiritual care connects us to each other and how we can use spiritual care to demonstrate care and compassion towards one another. Dr. Zaidi offers end-of-life spiritual care support to individuals who are terminally ill and their families. He's also engaged in multi-faith and multicultural spiritual care and has a recent publication on reconciliation with the Indigenous communities of Canada. So with that, I want to welcome Dr. Zaidi to our program today as our guest. Okay, Dr. Nasir Zaidi, welcome to Project Instigate. This is your first event here, and we're really looking forward to seeing you. First of all, please tell us about yourself and how you became interested in spiritual care.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fatima, for having me in your program. So we are going to talk on today spiritual care. And this is a long story, and then just briefly, I just want to mention that I was already providing services, my religious services in different organizations. And so families are already consulting us. They have a lot of problems and issues being a spiritual leader of the community. So, and then some of my community members who are medical doctors, who are experts, and they are specialists, and they suggested me that there is a very important area of specialization, which is spiritual care, and it will be good that if I am getting into this program and learning something from spiritual care and counseling as well. So whenever community members are consulting me and I'm providing my services, being a spiritual leader, so I must be professional and specialized in these areas. So then, and this is why I just motivated and they encouraged me, and it was very tough to get into the program. I had to work hard for this one, but just wanted to say that when I have already completed my courses, psychology and counseling from the university, SFU and Douglas College. And when I completed this spiritual care, and I then came to know that before getting this education and the specialization, I was doing terrible mistakes in providing my counseling services to the family members. So there was a big difference. And then, so anyway, so I started this one, and then I almost completed very important courses in the area of spiritual care. And for the last 3 years, I'm also working in the hospital. And every day I'm getting a lot of experiences, and every day is for me, and visit is for me is great learning opportunities.
So thank you so much for sharing that. So can you tell us a little bit about what spiritual care is? Is spiritual care the same as spirituality or religion?
Okay. Yeah, so spiritual care is, I think that's very more specialized, and people have not heard much about this and extent, but from a religious viewpoint. Okay, so this is exactly, Fatima is also asking the difference between spiritual care and religious care, or maybe religion. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, I would say that whenever we're going to visit patients and we want to provide spiritual care to them, they are always mixing up religiosity and spiritual care. And they think that we are preacher. And they think that, we are here to preach them. And something, this is from religious point of view. But they don't have any awareness that spiritual care is totally different from religion and religious care. So this is not for normally ordinary people, but even those who are in the hospitals. So we are also experiencing this challenge there. So it's very hard for us to explain for them that we are not preaching you. We are not here to tell you about religion or change your belief system, but we are here to provide spiritual care, which is above religion, which is even you are not religious person, even you are atheist, even you are denying God, even you are maybe very liberal or secular. Again, spiritual care is there. So it is nothing to do with religion. But if you are a religious person, then religion is really uh, helping you a lot and helping us a lot. Because if someone is there who is religious, so I will just explain in maybe later stage that a lot of resources are there, and it's very helpful for us if someone is religious. If not religious, again we have these expertise to provide our spiritual care to those who are maybe secular, who are denying God, who don't have any religious spirituality. Yeah, so this is the this apparent aspect of your question. But if you allow me, I just start my few slides, just go over, and then I will just explain for you about the spirituality and spiritual care. So if you are asking this question later on, once I have explained exactly the difference between spirituality and spiritual care, and let's start from this first slide. If you see this one, yeah, so this is like activity. I just want to invite you to involve in this activity to really understand. We are trying to explain now the difference between spirituality and spiritual care. And I would say that majority of people, they are using these two terms interchangeably, and they are mixing up spirituality with, or confusing the spiritual care with spirituality. But these two concepts are related to each other, but different from each other as well. So first thing is, okay, so this is first of all my question. So what does spirituality mean for you, or what makes life worth living? So you can answer to yourself, but I'm not saying that you tell me, but this is just for to reflect whatever we are now discussing. So let's little bit think about, okay, I have my life, I have my uh, experience in my life, I have individual life, I have family life, I have social life, maybe psychological. So what makes life worth living for me? What is important for me? What is valuable for me? So one way to think about this is to ask yourself what gives you meaning and sense of purpose in life, or what is the most important to your life. So try to think maybe four elements and place them in order to importance and significance for you. So if you see, there are two very important terminologies we have. One is meaning and sense of purpose. So meaningfulness and sense of purpose is extremely important to understand our spirituality. But it is directly related to our spirituality as well. The more my life is uh, meaningful, the more I have a spiritual and deeper sense of purpose, the more I am spiritual person. So for example, let's write something together. So first is, if you ask me, or maybe generally, because whenever we are providing spiritual care, so people are expressing their spirituality or meaningfulness or sense of purpose. So first is, for example, God. So you will say, okay, so God is the purpose of my life, or the first thing that which is very important for me. The second is, you may say, okay, my family members are important. My brothers, my sisters, my family member. So they are great support for me, and they are increasing meaningfulness in my life. The third, maybe you can say my education, or maybe music, Or fourth, you can again add something, whatever you think that this is the spirituality for you. For example, to serving the humanity. So it is important for you in your life. So this is again part of your meaningfulness. So this is what we see. Again, we need to list and where you find inspiration, hope, joy, and support to cope with life and living. You know that spirituality and spiritual care, they mostly work in the time of crisis. When we are in distressful situation, when we are in crisis, when we are facing problems and difficulties in our life, especially in such a situation and hardships that we are facing in our life. So spirituality is very important. In normal circumstances, we may be enjoying our life, materialistic life, but when we face difficulties and hardships and adversities in our life, then spiritual care and spirituality become very, very important in our life. So does this reflect your sense of spirituality? If not, try to think what is missing. So now, something is always inspiring us. And what is the hope and how we see the principle of hope in our life? So when we feel happiness, when we feel joy, what is very important for us? And then uh, how we cope with our difficulties whenever, for example, we face that we are not successful and we are not able to achieve our goals. So how we are able to uh, cope with this situation, and we can provide comfort to ourselves, and then peace of mind and tranquility of heart. So this is what we need to continuously, we need to ask uh, these questions from ourselves. And then third thing is, let's see what is spirituality. So spirituality is the aspect of humanity that refers to the way individuals seek and express meaning. So now first thing is, so there are different definitions and there is no agreed upon one definition about spirituality. So this is why the most important thing is we need to pay attention to the components of spirituality or elements of spirituality instead of trying to find out a specific definition. So there is no specific definition for this, but these three or four slides, points are there. So we will be able to understand. So this first point is related to uh, individuals seeking meanings in our life and expressing meaningfulness in our life. So again, spirituality is related to how you are experiencing meaningfulness. Let me explain this one. When we say meaningfulness, it means, I will give you one simple example. For example, I am migrated from my country in Canada, and I am specialized in a particular field, but I don't find any job in it. And you know that when I'm not able to find job, so how much it is stressful for me, and this is a big crisis for me. So now meaningfulness is becoming very important for me. So if I say, okay, so I don't have much resources, I don't have much strength, I don't have enough tools to address my crisis and my adversities. So then I will go to, for example, universities, and I will upgrade myself, or I get specialization in another field. So you will see that now I have increased something in my resources, and then now I am better able to handle uh, my crisis in my life. So similarly, now I will give you example, and then but I am already experiencing. So people who are religious and people who are not religious. So for example, one of the biggest issues that we are facing and then we are experiencing in the hospital, when we see that patients are there, dying patient, as Fatima also already mentioned, that I'm also working in hospice and working with dying patients, and then palliative cares, and it's a very tough job as well. But a lot of experience I'm getting from there. So they have different world. Their world is totally different from our world. Their questions are totally different from our questions. But unfortunately, we should also be able to pay attention to these aspects. So they have fear of death. So when you have fear of death, this is one of the biggest crises we have for dying patients. And they are totally, it's frightening situation for them. So now I have seen in the hospital, for example, if I believe in this materialistic life, I believe that, okay, after the death, we will be vanished and nothing will happen. And but other person who is religious, and then he or she believes that no, there is a life after death. And this is the transformation of life. We are transferring from one world to other world, and we will have better life in the day of judgment. And we will have the mercy of God, and then we will not have these problems and difficulties. So you see that one person has more meaningfulness and then able to handle these issues, but other person cannot address his or her adversities. I know there was a patient, and then because I'm providing spiritual care to Muslim patients mostly, but there was a Christian patient, and then and this lady was really in pain, very severe physical and spiritual pain. You know, because I did not know in Christianity, but I know something in Islam. So I discussed with her, and she was very attached to me, and then she was trusting me. We had developed very good trustful relationship. And then then I told her that, in Islam, the more you are suffering, the more you are going through very difficult time, the more you are getting reward in the day of judgment, and you are purifying yourself. So she became so happy. And then I noticed that how much my this point was comforting her, only by. So you see, these things are related to our worldview. The more we have resources in our hand, the more we are living with happiness and with comfort and peace of mind. Yeah. So the next point is, again, just I want to just go through and then not going into the more details. Connectedness is also very. Sometimes we know something. Sometimes we have strength. We have spirituality, and we have very strong resources. But unfortunately, I have seen in my hospital as well that we are not connected to our resources. So this is another issue, because I have seen that people are there who are very well versed in theology. You can start theological discussions with them. You can ask any question about God, about prophets, about day of judgment, and they are very expert theoretically. But practically, I don't see the presence of God, for example, in their life. They believe in God, but God is not there to help them. So you know that connectedness is extremely important in spirituality. That, for example, if you want to evaluate yourself, so it's not important that theoretically what you believe. Important is practically how much you are connected to your resources. So this is one thing. And other thing, you can see that spirituality means that something is greater than your own being and your soul in your life. It can be God, it can be nature, it can be music, it can be your family members. Something should be there that you could cling these powers and these tools whenever you are facing problems and difficulties. So again, this is related to spirituality. And then again, having a sense of peace and purpose. You can see that, again, same, the greater value than what you do every day. It can relieve you from dependence of material things. It's very interesting aspect in spirituality. For example, I am very materialistic person. This worldly life is very important for me. The apparent enjoyment and everything is very important for me. But materialistic things are always very limited. And two aspects are there. If you feel joy or happiness, at the same time, pain is also there. This is the characteristic of materialistic world. For example, if today you are listening something good news, you are becoming so happy. But in next moment, you will listen something very painful, and then you will be in grief and then sadness. So this is why we must have something above this materialistic dependence. Then it will be very helpful. This is called basically spirituality. I am not saying necessarily religion. So if you have religion, so you have other resources basically. But if you don't have religion, you may have belief in the higher power. Maybe not God, but higher power is there to help you. So this is what related to spirituality. And spirituality often involves looking beyond the surface of things and trusting the process of how our lives unfold. Unfold mean we have something in the deeper levels of our soul. We have very strong spirituality, but we are not connected to our spirituality and we are not able to explore ourselves. So when we experience something, these inner layers of our personality, this manifest and reveal itself. And then we come to know, oh, these are also our resources. So spiritual care professional, the main art of spiritual care is that. So we are connecting the clients to their spirituality that they cannot do it themselves. They have the resources, but they are not able to connect. So the whole practice and training and education is related to how we can connect other person to his or her strength. So this will be then very helpful for the comfort and other things. So these things, again, the same sense of purpose, sense of connectedness, and then you can have these slides as well. Fatima can forward you. And then only one thing is related to spiritual care, and then if you had any question, then we will ask. To touch another's heart by providing presence, deep listening, empathy, and compassion. So the difference between spirituality and spiritual care is that spirituality is something that you have in your heart, in your soul, or you may not have, but always to some extent, every person has spirituality. I remember that sometimes I'm visiting my patients. I'm not saying patients, but they are, for example, those who are in hospitals, or they are, for example, admitted there, and they are my clients. So when I enter the room, I introduce myself. I say, oh, I'm spiritual care professional and I'm coming from the VGH or this or that. So patient is saying, oh, we are not spiritual and I don't believe in spirituality, because they think that they have, we are religious people and then we are coming here to tell them that religion is good or that what you should adopt these beliefs or other things. But because we have also training, even someone is denying spiritual care and don't want to get this service, again, we have this training to engage these people. So I remember then a person who was totally denying and he was refusing and said, no, I don't want to see you. But once I started, I requested him that, would you allow me to sit with you a little bit? And then when we sit together, and then after 7 or 8 minutes, believe me, I was saying to him, oh, you are saying that you don't have spirituality and you have very strong spiritual resources. And then I pointed out to him that you have. So these things are always important. Spiritual care means that we are providing spiritual care and we are exploring these resources in clients, in other people's, and then connecting them to them through deep listening, assessment, intervention, planning, and there is a whole, we have the protocol we need to follow for this one. Yeah. So this is all about spiritual care. Just I wanted to mention. So Fatma, if you have any question or something, then otherwise we can go ahead.
Sure. Just one second. Okay, so what I would actually like to do is connect what you just said to the Project Instigate audience. At Project Instigate, we support people who are leaders, and whether it's through their business, nonprofit organizations, or some kind of a grassroots movement that they want to start, their ultimate goal is to have a positive impact in the community and possibly even have an impact on the world in a very positive and a very meaningful way. And what I got out of what you said is there's this connectedness. They have this connectedness to the world, to their community, and it's part of their spirituality that they feel connected to that makes them want to create the positive difference. Whether it's someone who owns a business that sells eco friendly products, or if it's someone who's had an experience that they want to share with the world, or if someone wants to work on improving the education system or ending homelessness, the resources that they draw upon to make these things happen is a form of spiritual care. At Project Instigate, we run groups we call masterminds. This is where these leaders come together and they talk about how they can do things and how they can overcome some of the barriers and struggles that they're going through. They brainstorm ideas on how they can reach their goals in their businesses or organizations. And this group in itself, for example, if I'm understanding correctly, would be part of spiritual care because it connects them to a team of people who supports them, who builds them up, who helps them through both difficult and good times.
I would say one thing that recently I presented my very important article in the conference in Vancouver School of Theology. The topic was very unique and did not have any other, I did not see any other article or work on this issue. So the possible role of spiritual care in fostering inclusive faith communities.
Mm-hmm.
So how we can bring faith communities or cultural communities to close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I used all these spiritual principles, but we are using in hospital setting, and I really believe in it that all these principles that when we are providing spiritual care, so we have not discussed these basically principles,
Mm-hmm.
but I will just mention now that these principles can be used in every field of life. For
Mm-hmm.
example, in your family life, in your individual life, in your social life, in your, especially if you are in leadership role. So in leadership role, it is extremely important that if we are well aware of these spiritual care principles that we are already taking care of. So, for example, if I start from here, which is very important for all of us. For example, I am playing leadership role in my community. So the first thing is my own upbringing and own professionalism. So if you see the spiritual care professionals, I'm junior, there are seniors. And then if you see really spiritual care providers and professionals, you will find them, they are in real sense, they are caring people. It's very difficult to find. People are always pretending each other,
Mm-hmm.
but they are not in real sense, they are not caring. Uh, so how we can be caring for others and how we can be helpful for others from the bottom of our heart, and then our feelings and our emotions are involved. So we have very tough training for this one,
Mm-hmm.
and this is why I think that so caring person, and then you must be, for example, if you are spiritual care professional, then you know how to support other people. You know what I'm saying? Wherever you are in your organization, you are in the industry, you are in at your work, always people have uh, issues in their personal life, in their spiritual life. This is always there. And if we don't know how to support other people, we are not going to, we miss the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
because we don't have these tools and assessment criteria that this person who is sitting with me is going through a big crisis in his or her life, And this is why this condition is affecting the work, whatever she or he is doing. So this is why, for example, support, and then how we can be a good listener. This is very important uh, in leadership role, because I also have seen that people who become leader, or they are like in the administrative positions, they are always more authoritative. They may not be good listener, but good listening and getting feedback from others. This is a very tough training in spiritual care. It's a total different perspective that normally you have in your mind. So technically you know that what is the meaning of deep listening or this or that, but in spiritual care, listening issue is extremely important. That how much it is important that you are acknowledging other person, even you are not agree with him or her. And similarly, and then for example, for the well-being of others, you are very caring, and you are involving others, you are educating others, you are appreciative to others. So all these values are we have in spiritual care. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And in essence of our time, I wanted to jump to the topic of ethics and morality. What are some ethical and moral issues around providing spiritual care? Can anyone become a spiritual care provider? Or can we all provide spiritual care in our own capacities? Are there any moral and ethical issues that we should be aware of? What kind of advice do you have in that sense?
Okay, so you are thinking that this is one question, but there are a lot of questions in your one question. So so one thing is very important in spiritual care, which is related to ethics and morality, or the moral issues are sometimes involved. The first thing is, in my experience that I can share with you, is related to, for example, uh, first of all, generally, spiritual care is very much connected to the moral and ethical issues in our life. So, if we want to become a moral person, so spiritual care is helping us a lot. But anyway, so we have some code of ethics and conduct, and this is very important. First thing is confidentiality. So, confidentiality is extremely important in our spiritual care services. We have understanding about confidentiality, and to some extent we are taking care of this issue, and we pay attention to the issue. But in healthcare setting, when we have a very tough training, very subtle and delicate aspects are there, that how much confidentiality of other person is important for us. So from ethical perspective, uh, if and this is why, very interesting thing I would say, this only because of trust. Some patients are sharing with you some very private issues in their life with you. Even they are not sharing this with their husbands or other family members, only because of trust and confidentiality. They already believe in you because you are not judging them. So first thing is this in our ethically. Second is, we must be very careful that we are not using inappropriate language. So language, the words we are choosing, we should be very careful that we are not offending people, we are not be disrespectful to them. So, and all these aspects you will see that not related to healthcare setting, but it's related to our individual family life, social life. We need to really adopt these principles. We need to cultivate this. So inappropriate language, sometimes we are unconsciously, we are using this one. The second thing is that we have some gender issues. Canada is very diverse society and multi-faith and multicultural society. The way we are, for example, being a male person, the way we are interacting with females. In some cultures, it is very maybe abusive, maybe aggressive, maybe different way. But Canadian society is very different. And we need to be very careful, and especially we have a very tough training for this, that gender issues are there sometimes. Uh, we, uh, we need to be very careful when we are interacting with, for example, when I'm going there for female patient, I have different approach. For male patient, I must be very careful. So this is sometime happening. And spiritually, if we are not expert in spiritual care, and if we are not professional, then we are causing spiritual pain, and there are safety issues for other person, and then we may be hurting this person, we may be increasing the spiritual pain because we are not handling the situation. Sometimes sexual harassment is there, sexual aspects are there, and then sometimes we must know that we have professional boundaries, we have individual and then personal boundaries. And most sometimes it is happening that people are not paying attention to or differentiating these two boundaries, and these are very important, that I am there as a professional. So when we are in the organization, this is not related to hospital work, but everywhere we should know that we need to complete our task or do our whatever we are doing very professionally. So yeah, these things are there that we are. Another thing that we are facing, and we can also uh, see in other places and other areas, that we are not there to impose our thinking. We are not there to impose our belief system on other people or patients, but we are there to facilitate them. We are there to help them in expressing their feelings. Sometimes they have something to say, but they cannot express themselves. So we help them to express themselves. We give them better words, better structure, sentences, and other things. But we are not there to change their mindset, to change their belief system. So similarly, we can also use that. For example, okay, sometimes in our work environment, people are religious, people are non-religious, people are very, they have their own belief system. So sometimes people are consciously, unconsciously, directly or indirectly, we are imposing our thinking on others. So we should be very careful. Spiritual care provider is professionally trained for this one. So this is again a very important aspect. Yeah, these things are there.
Yeah, and I noticed this in a lot of different professions as well. You know, whether, for example, in my experience working with individuals that are experiencing homelessness, or women that are coming from abusive backgrounds or coming from a place of severe trauma, you can never know what is going to trigger them and how it could just be a certain gesture or maybe your tone or use of certain words. Because we don't know other people's backgrounds, it can become very triggering, and this can
Yeah,
apply to just, you know, you're having a conversation with a person one moment, and the next thing you know, you're extreme, like you've offended them because of something you said and you didn't even realize that you were saying it, because you did, because of, sometimes they don't even know that they were triggered by something until much later. So language, body language, choice of words, all of that is definitely very important, especially making sure that we're being mindful of our own beliefs on what we might think is right or wrong, and making sure that in our conversation with others, we're not imposing that belief or that judgment on to other people that we're speaking with. And it's especially important as a leader when, let's say, even if you're in a corporate setting where you're part of a management or even part of a team, in being able to speak to your team members and work together with them, understanding and being mindful of how and where you're coming from and what automatic biases are being put into your language, is very important in making sure that there remains harmony in any kind of setting, but also professional boundaries. It's difficult when you have a business or an organization where you're working with people who are in a setting where you have to go to people's homes, or in a situation where you're actually working in a place that is a communal living setting, those boundaries around professionalism can become very blurred very quickly. So yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much for
Fatima,
that.
just want to add this. You also mentioned that when we are in the hospital, so we must make sure there that other person or patients, they are feeling safe with us.
Mm-hmm.
Because and this is outside the hospital, the same thing. For example, if I want to come to see someone, other person should feel safe, and then
Mm-hmm.
not feeling that I am breaching his or her confidentiality, or maybe I somehow harmful for this person. So feeling safe is extremely important for us, that whenever we see each other person should think that we are there to support you, not to
Mm-hmm.
hurt you, not to inflict any harm to you. So this is extremely important for us. I think everywhere, ethically and morally, it is important for us to know. Yeah.
So I want to go back to a question that I'd asked earlier. How is this different than counseling someone?
So yeah. So Fatima, you need to know that first of all, counseling is there are so many overlaps when we are providing spiritual care. So we need to make sure that we are not acting the role of counseling, but so many counseling principles we are using in our spiritual care. But technically speaking, counseling is more intellectual, more for example, you are more focusing on problem solving issues. You want to resolve the issue, you want to solve the issue, and you may be more authoritative, and you are maybe providing more guidelines, or like you can say to other person that you need to do this, you need to do this, or this is good for you. But spiritual care professional is not doing this at all. Results and solution is not important for us. Solution and can be problem solving, I'm saying. It can be the result of spiritual care automatically. But
Mm-hmm.
this is not our goal. Our goal is to provide comfort to patients or clients. So how much, because uh, physical pain is always there, but physical pain is not only one thing. We have social pain, we have spiritual pain also. So one aspect is medical doctors, they are basically addressing this issue. But who will address the spiritual pain related issue? For example, a patient is there who has a fear of death. So fear of death is further intensifying the physical pain for this patient. And this is
Mm-hmm.
why I have seen in the hospital that there is a same sickness, same injury, but one patient has a lot of pain, other patient has less pain. So
Mm-hmm.
doctors are also a little bit for them difficult to understand. But we as a spiritual care professional, we understand that no,
Mm-hmm.
because of spiritual pain, so it has already intensified. So I would say that in counseling, the approach is different. This is more psychological, but spiritual care is more heart to heart. The feelings of other person is extremely important for us. Sometimes this may be very important for our audience and participants as well. That sometimes we don't need to say anything. You can't imagine that your presence and empathetical and compassionate presence is extremely important for these patients. They need someone to express their feelings in the safe environment. Spiritual care provider is providing safe environment that you can, for example, sometimes females are there, they're really crying, they are weeping because of their issues. I say to them, it's okay for me if you are crying, if you are feeling, because when they feel that there is a safe place to express their emotions, then they feel comfort. So this is the very important role that spiritual care providers are normally playing. And I remember in the very beginning, this was my few days, I was in the clinical work, and then I was just internee and I was student.
Mhm.
So there was a family member, father of his daughter was very sick, and then fourth stage cancer. And then I started to provide spiritual care to her father. And all of a sudden, when I was talking to him, I was providing my spiritual care, he started to cry. He started to shed tears, and I became scared. And it was very frightening situation. I thought that this is very, I did something wrong, or maybe I did mistake. Why, what I did? When I came back to my supervisor, so my supervisor told me, no, 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 this was the, uh, it means that your spiritual care was very successful because you touched the heart of this person. So when you are touching the heart of someone, and then the other person is really crying and weeping, I have seen in the hospitals, and then I see that they are feeling really comfort. Yeah.
So is this how you measure success in spiritual care then? Since there is no real objective or goal or outcome, is that how you would measure success? Someone.
These two things are different. First of all,
Okay.
our goals, of course, our goals are, I will just explain for you. But when we are, you are saying about effectiveness. So this is, even we are practicing and we are already following all the rules of spiritual care. Again, we need to monitor our progress. It is extremely important. And what I'm saying now, it is also related to outside the hospital as well in our daily life. So monitoring our progress, this is first time because patient is giving some very important cues and hints. And we need to, because sometimes some patients are very gentlemen, or they are very good people. They feel bothered when we are there. They don't want spiritual care, but they cannot say to us we don't want. This is now our art to understand whether this person is taking interest in me or not, whether my spiritual care is the response I am getting, or there is a connectedness or not. So I need to understand from this aspect that what are the obstacles, and the feedback of other people or clients or patients is also very important to know whether I am my spiritual care is effective or not, or successful or not. So monitoring my progress, there are whole system that we need to really be very careful about that. But the goals, just quickly, this I want to mention that goals mean that we have goals, we have targets. It means we have to follow the exact protocol. This is just like, because we are the part of the doctor's team, because in the hospital, as we have occupational therapists, as we have physiotherapists, as we have specialists, we have spiritual care professional as well. So spiritual care provider is the part of the doctor's team. So so they have their protocols. So we have, for example, establishing relationship and rapport is extremely important, and then how to engage, and then assessment criteria. So maybe another time I would like to really discuss how we assess the needs, the level of crisis, and then planning, and then intervention, how we can intervene. So all these aspects are, for example, related to our goals, and we are step by step, we are forming our short-term and long-term goals, and they are always changing as the situation is being changed in the hospital. Yeah.
Okay. So is there, you have briefly touched on this, but I just wanted to ask, is there a possibility of harm being done through spiritual care? Is someone that spiritual care is not suitable for any circumstances?
Yeah, sometimes we are hurting people because we are doing something against their feelings and against their emotions. And sometimes, and we have a lot of examples, especially when we were student. So in clinical work, sometimes it is very dangerous for the spiritual health of the patients. For example, we are imposing our belief system, or we are the way we are connecting to the patients. It is hurting this patient, and we are using the words, for example, in such a way which is inappropriate, or maybe we are bothering a lot this patient, and then he doesn't want us. So these type of things are always there, and this is why this is directly affecting their physical health as well, if they are not happy spiritually and spiritual care is wrong. Yeah.
So basically, it comes down to boundaries and knowing your boundaries. And if you sense that the other person just wants you to stop or aren't interested, then just as simple as backing off then.
Yeah, one of the part of our education is related to verbatim. Verbatim mean that whenever we are going to see patients, so we have to write the verbatim and conversation, and this is a whole different portions are there. So when we are coming and we are doing role play in the class, then supervisor is taking just giving very tough time to us, and he is asking, okay, why you ask this question to patient, why you did this, why you responded in such a way, why you, it was very poisoning for this person. For example, in different religion, in Islam as well, so we have very strong theology of punishment of the day of judgment. So, for example, we know that if we are doing wrong, so we will be punished in the day of judgment. So, this is okay. This is part of the religion. But if we are using these things in the hospital care, if you, I would say, for example, there is a dying patient, and I'm saying to this dying patient, oh, now you are dying, you should seek repentance, otherwise, you will be sent to the hell. There will be hellfire for you, you will be severely punished. So we are further frightening this patient. We are not saying wrong anything, but he also believes in it. He's Muslim even. But again, sometimes it is very poisoning. This is dangerous for the spiritual health of this patient. So we have another aspect like mercy of God, like rewards of the day of judgment, the comfort of the day of judgment, how much God is forgiving for us. These are these things. So this is what I think you are asking for. Uh,
Yeah, I think so. So basically, it's not about the actual uh, it's not about the actual religion or the religious guidelines or laws. It's about the immediate impact that you're having on the person in front of you, and making sure that they're best taken care of in the moment, and are they're feeling at ease and in comfort.
Yeah, so basically, I think one of your questions was about professionalism. Those who are in the spirituality, and then they are also saying that we can provide spiritual care. But those who are professional means that we understand our boundaries. And even we are taking benefit from the religion, from other things, but we know how to use the religious principles in spiritual care setting. So we are not crossing the red lines or boundaries. It's very important because spiritual care principles must be protected at every level. So, but these are resources, religion is resources. Other things are, we are getting benefit from psychology, and psychological framework and psychological theory are extremely important for us. But this will be in the light of spiritual care principles.
Okay, thank you. So my final question for you is, our audience are not spiritual care professionals. They're not spiritual care audience. They come from a wide variety of backgrounds. What advice do you have for our participants today? How can they practice spiritual care in their everyday life? How can they practice spiritual care in their business, in their family lives, with their coworkers, with their employees and team members? How can an average person apply spiritual care while holding the essence of the guidelines of spiritual care what is the best way that an average person can practice this?
Yeah, okay. So, Fatima, this is again very important question. I would say, first of all, I want to say that spiritual care and its education is called more experiential. It's very important to know. Experiential mean that you cannot learn spiritual care by reading the books. You have to have experience. When you are experiencing this one, then you are learning a lot. And the part of the educational aspect, theoretical aspect, we have 70 to 80% is experiential aspect in the clinical work. But what I would suggest here, that of course we are not expecting everyone to become the spiritual care professional, because I think that you were also asking this one. The prerequisite of spiritual care education, which is called clinical pastoral education, is masters in theology. Because if you are not master, at least masters in theology, you cannot be accepted in the program. So this is one of the prerequisites. So we cannot expect other people that they should come and learn, or but I think that I'm already doing this one, that if we are able to attend some basic workshops and mini clinical pastoral education, I would say, I name it mini. So if we have like workshop, then we will go through this whole system, and then we will have more beautiful explanation, and then people will really get lot of benefit from these spiritual care principles, and then they will be able to use these principles in their life, and they will be very successful as well. I don't have any doubt. Yeah. So seminars, conferences, workshops, these kind of things should be like established.
So there are small seminars that are open to public that they can take to improve on their own personal practices for spiritual care with families, friends, businesses.
Yeah, of course. But you
Yeah.
know, seminars are addressing, because I'm already addressing a lot of seminars. So only specific issue we are discussing. For
Mhm.
example, last time in the seminar, I talked about the end of life,
Mhm.
spiritual care for end of life situation. In
Mhm.
another at seminar, I talked in detail about elderly people, how to provide spiritual care to elderly people. So for example, if you are attending this seminar, so you will get to know a lot how you can provide care to your elders at home, maybe your parents, maybe wherever you see elders, elderly people. So lot of subtle principles are there. We are really ignoring them. They elderly people in the hospital setting, in uh, the care homes, you know, they are how much they are in need of people to come just to sit with them for few minutes, because they are feeling loneliness, they are alone. And similarly loneliness in our elderly people, others. So you will get to know at least this area. But workshop mean, for example, if we have workshop, then you will get from different aspects of spiritual care, and this will be more helpful for us to uh, to use this in our individual and social and family life.
So how can our audience today access these workshops and seminars?
So I have my own database, so I will just forward you whenever you can forward this one. I will give you one example. For example, how you can use this, because last time I was in Edmonton and I discussed in detail about, okay, if you have kids at your home, so one of the very specialized training we have in spiritual care education, like clinical pastoral education, is we have 1 hour a session in the class where we are not allowed to explain anything. We are only allowed to express our feelings, and we are only allowed to explore the feelings of others. And it is very tough job. You know, sometimes you are sweating in the class, because for example, I will give you one example. One day in the class, I was talking to another student. She was from maybe North Korea or China. So I said, okay, when I talk to you, you are not, you don't have eye contact with me. you're not seeing me. I feel disrespected. So this is my feeling. I'm allowed to express my feeling. Whether my feelings are right or wrong, this is not important. So similarly, I was talking to the community members. I say our kids, sometimes I see that we don't allow them to express their feelings. So at least once in a week, at least most of the time, let them express themselves. If we are not allowing them to express themselves, then and we are suppressing their feelings, then this will be very dangerous for their uh, training and for their upbringing and other things. So this is why I'm saying that spiritual care principles are very helpful for us if we have this kind of workshop and we are discussing these issues and we have interactive session, not like this that I'm explaining and you are listening. So we have interactive and then we have role play sometimes or maybe. So yeah, so workshop is good.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We will end there, however, and thank you, Dr. Zaidi, for coming in. I just wanted to thank you guys for joining us this evening. Please go on Project Instigate's Facebook page and make sure you like the page to get access to future events that will be posted this weekend. You can follow Project Instigate on Instagram as well as on LinkedIn. If you could leave a positive review on our guests' Facebook page as well, it really encourages our guests to come in again next time, and it really helps them, motivate them because of the contribution that they've made to the program that we have. Be sure to visit our speaker's website as well, which is drnasirzaidi.com and projectinstigate.com as well. We encourage everyone to go online and leave a positive review for our speakers so they are happy to come back and provide us with lots of more valuable information. Also, if you are a leader who has a passion project, a business, a nonprofit organization, or a grassroots movement that will have a positive impact on the community or even the world, you're looking for support for growing it and to get it off the ground, you may want to look into our Power Forward to Success Mastermind. Our Power Forward to Success Mastermind is a small, tight-knit community of strong leaders who want to make a difference in the world and are ready to invest in their personal, professional, and organizational growth, all through meaningful relationships with other leaders who want to build each other up, dream together, and help each other succeed.